Hello, welcome. Today we're going to be testing out guided missile 3s versus strategic bomber 3s and tactical bomber 3s, and then I'll even throw in jet bomber 1s. So for the test, we have 2,000 of these guided missile 3s, 1,000 strategic bombers, 1,600 tactical bombers, 1,400 jet tactical bombers. These are all proportional to IC, and then I also have production lines set up to replicate the fact that each one of these rocket sites takes up 2 building slots, which could have been used for factories. So if we have 2,000 of these, that means we could have had 20 factories instead. So this will replace their losses. We'll start with zero stockpile though. We'll delete that later. We're going to use strategic destruction, obviously. It's the bomber one with centralized control. On the French side, we have 2,000 fighter 3s with no upgrades. They're going to be using operational integrity with centralized control. They're just going to be performing interception duties because honestly, strategic bombers can basically operate without fighter cover. This is approximately the same amount of IC compared to strategic bombers. We will start with the guided missiles to go until August 1st, and we're just going to see how much damage they do. Alrighty, France is fully repaired. Let's remember to turn off IC. This is attempt 4 at test 1. Fighters have been spread out to make them a little bit more resistant to being strap bombed. Let's let this run for 1 month and see how much we bomb. After 1 month, we bombed 75.2 buildings, had 8.9 of our own buildings bombed. I don't know how that's possible unless they're getting damaged from misfires or something. We are down to 642 guided missiles. Somehow our rockets have shot down 11 enemy fighters. We're going to let a month pass for France to repair all of its stuff, and then we'll go on to strap bombers. So France is all nice and repaired. Let's remember to turn off IC this time. We're going to use strategic bombers this time, and we are going to delete all of the strategic bombers we have in stockpile. We have the 20 factories producing strategic bombers to replace losses to represent the 20 rocket sites. So we're going to let this run until the beginning of April. Aces are a fact of life. We're not going to unassign them. Alright, April 1st, we have bombed 68 rather than 75. The enemy have lost 150 fighters versus our 133, and we still have 945 strategic bombers left, which means we could likely continue to do this month after month after month. Alrighty, from there we're going to move on to the tactical bombers, but we're going to let a month pass so that the French can repair. And let's see how well the tactical bombers do. So I actually missed the month in there because I was just so enamored by just the 99% disrupted while being unescorted. So while the strats can deal with being unescorted, tactical bombers must be escorted. They cannot operate otherwise. I'll go back and rewatch the recording and get the actual numbers for the month end. Let's move on to jet tactical bombers and their superior speed. It is the 1st of July. We can send up the jet tactical bombers. They are much faster, so they might be better off unescorted. They might also require an escort. Already, attempt 2, August 1st, we're going to let this go for a month. They also have a very high planes disrupted. Not quite 99, but 92. And we're going to see that number continue to climb as they lose more planes. So even jet tactical bombers with their insane speed advantage and quite a bit more agility than regular tactical bombers cannot perform without escort. It's just not possible. They lose so many bombers, 255 bombers lost. They managed to bomb 26.6 enemy buildings. So I've compiled the results. We have rockets destroying 75.2 buildings within a month, but they've only got 642 planes remaining, so their ability to continue doing that into the next month and the month after is quite low, and they somehow shot down 11 enemy fighters. Strap bombers bombed 68, pretty close. It's about 10% less, but they've got 945 planes remaining, so they have the ability to do a more sustained bombing campaign, whereas rockets are just bomb them a lot for a month and then stop for a while because it's going to take you a long time to rebuild those rockets. And then you had tacticals and jet tacticals. So by the end, tacticals, they were no longer doing damage. And remember, we're using approximately equal amounts of IC here, so the fighters are over time going to wear down the tactical bombers to the point where if they don't have fighter cover, they're not going to be able to continue doing their mission. They lost 279, which is quite a bit. 279 planes is quite a bit. We're looking at 1.56 times the cost of strat bombers, but you're losing 2.1 times more planes, and you're just not inflicting any sort of amount of IC losses to the enemy. And then with jet tactical bombers, they performed a bit better, and again, they're just not going to be able to sustain a long-term strategic bombing campaign without fighter cover, which is going to eat into the number of tactical bombers and jet tactical bombers you can bring to the fight. So overall, if you're trying to strategic bomb, I would recommend strats because you can get them much earlier. You can use 1940 strats and then 1944 and you can mix them, whereas rockets, anything before the 1946 rockets literally does not have the range. That is why I used the 1946 rockets. If we come in here and look, this is the 1945 rocket and it's got 640 range. I actually set this test up. The rockets centered in the middle of the Alpine region could not actually reach southern France. That's why we were using the 1946 rockets. And they're only slightly outperforming the 1944 strategic bombers. I would say if you're going to do strategic bombing, just use strategic bombers. Don't really bother with the rockets. They're just not really worth it. And then tactical bombers, you are going to need to provide them with fighter cover. And if you can't provide them with fighter cover, they're not really worth using unless the enemy is just not putting up fighters. Anyways, thank you for watching and I will see you guys next time.